In the early 2000s, after the release of Grand Theft Auto 3, the franchise was definitely celebrating its first peak. A peak that wouldn't stop peaking when 2004's Grand Theft Auto San Andreas became the best-selling game of the PlayStation 2. Of course, it was a success that many other companies tried to replicate, but since they couldn't quite reach the same heights in quality, they at least tried to ride the trend by taking their own shot at the open world genre, which would become one of the biggest trends in AAA gaming for decades to come. It's a story you heard a million times, but the story that's unique to me or you is what side of the spectrum we experienced back in the day. I myself was one of the millions of kids who were so occupied drooling over GTA that I only found out about their competition even existing when I got much older. And I was also one of the millions of kids who should have been playing Bob the Builder Festival of Fun instead of memorizing every location in Liberty City where you can pick up ladies of the night. Long story short, 2013's GTA 5 was already out by the time I dipped my toes into any open world crime games outside the Grand Theft Auto and Mafia franchises. And truth to be told, while I still consider those two my absolute favorites, there was one game that left a long-lasting impression on me. This game was 2012's Sleeping Dogs. While this title earned a dedicated following, I still feel like not enough people know about this absolute masterpiece of a game, while the ones who played it are forever gonna be tormented by the fact that it's never gonna get a sequel. I'm one of those forever tormented people. But while I never get a sequel to one of my favorite games, I still have the chance to explore its origins. As Sleeping Dogs, as I found out, was originally intended to be part of an already existing franchise, True Crime, a name they couldn't use anymore after the game changed owners mid-production, while the True Crime name remained the property of the previous owner. So hoping that the franchise had the same soul at its birth as it did before its death, I went back to 2003's Los Angeles to experience it all firsthand. While I never expected this journey to be anywhere close to a GTA title, nor was I expecting to play Sleeping Dogs but with older graphics, I was very curious to experience a game so many fans still have fond memories of. This, after all, is the origins of one of my favorite games. This is True Crime: Streets of LA. Our story starts in the heart of Los Angeles in 2003 with hotshot LAPD detective Nicholas Kang finally returning to service after the suspension he earned while working homicide. While notorious for being a loose cannon out in the field, his talents earned Nick an offer from the chief to join the fictional EOD.
Nick, meet Rosie Velasco.
Great, I'll have a cup of coffee, black, no sugar.
Nick, Rosie's your new partner.
Well, in that case, make it a bourbon.
Screw you.
It's important to point out that Nick was hired to join the EOD to help wrap up the city's issues with the Triad.
5 bombings this month, 9 dead, all mom and pop outfits in Chinatown.
You know it's the Triad.
Exactly, no one's talking, no one wants to touch it, it's gotten worse.
And I didn't have to wait too long to see some action, as the Triad pretty much just showed up at the Chinese restaurant I went to in order to get the plot rolling, and not waste too much screen time on Rosie.
Sorry, Rosie, what'd you say?
I come here to collect. Where the money?
Yo, tough guy! Over here!
Ah!
Thank God he didn't pick a spoon or a fork, it looks like those would have been really hard to peel off from there.
You made big mistake.
This was my first introduction to fighting, so as you can imagine it was more guessing than actual fighting. But I still managed to pull off a few unique moves, mostly by accident. The restaurant is also packed with furniture and breakable props, trying to show off the dynamic interiors we'll have plenty of throughout this journey.
You dead, man! You hear? Dead!
What's that? I can't hear you. Oh, you can't hear me either.
What's Chinese for crazy? No way I'm gonna work with you. You're out of control. I don't need this shit. Rosie?
To emphasize Rosie's uselessness, she not only ends up complaining about my behavior, but is also taken hostage and gets shot not 10 minutes into the story. This, of course, grants me weapons free and I can shoot the remaining Triad member as well.
It's a good day to shoot someone. Mess with the EOD, end up DOA. Man, that was corny.
Now, if anything good came out of this whole sequence, it's that afterwards, Rosie is gonna be working the desk and inevitably becoming the mandatory 2000s female voice on the phone, feeding intel to the protagonist, which was the style at the time. And now I just had to wait for the EOD to track down the car the Triad guy tried to get away with before I enrich his diet with some Edit 38 special. Once the driver was found, I headed to his location at a bar on Hill Street at the edge of Chinatown, where he was, of course, terrorizing another small business owner over some protection money. This fight was my introduction to engaging opponents with melee weapons. Gotta say, I did pretty good again, performing those accidental grapple throws, which also disarm enemies in case they have a knife or a blunt weapon. And him running away at the end of the fight was a nice little intro to on-foot chase sequences. Our lead from here takes us to Dynasty Imports, on the corner of Temple and Los Angeles Street.
Dynasty Imports, with emphasis on the nasty.
Our journey here is still very much in tutorial mode, with this part functioning as your basic training for the 4 stealth sections. Now this was anything but fun, but thankfully the stealth sections are also simple and short enough so they don't have the opportunity to get on your nerves really. This simplicity is exactly why I didn't pay attention to the glass on the floor, which led to a pretty painful failure. Hilariously, failing the stealth section gives you this beep sound, so it feels more like you failed a quiz show than a mission in an action game.
Good. We got a martial artist who has kicked his way to 100 million likes on TikTok. Let's take a look. You suck.
Regardless of how you perform, the next section of the warehouse serves as the first proper gunfight. Nick is equipped with 2 revolvers, and since we are 2 years after the first Max Payne game, also bullet time. Both the revolver ammo and the bullet time are unlimited, but it's only activated when diving to balance things out. Dropped weapons can replace your revolvers until their magazines run dry, but the biggest surprise is that you will dual wield absolutely everything. Yes, my boy Nick here can fire a fully grown AK one-handed, which other than being kinda awesome, was also probably a really effective way to cut down on the animation budget, as every weapon is held and fired the same way.
My bullshit!
I can see the light.
At the end of the mission, we finally get Jimmy Foo, and as a closing act, we are thrown into a boss fight against a sniper who looks more professionally equipped than the Triads we were fighting so far. The fact that he tried to silence the Triad guy before shooting us is a subtle foreshadowing that there are more sides involved in this case than just the Triads.
This is my bullshit!
Once Triad Jimmy spilled the beans, we are off to start climbing the criminal ranks of LA's Triad. But the only name mentioned that is worth remembering here is Ancient Wu.
Kang, I hate to break it to you, but Ancient Wu is one of those urban legends. A ghost story.
Oh, you think so, huh?
Enough, Rosie. Nick isn't gonna chase some pipe dream.
By now, between most objectives, you are free to roam the city, and I've successfully lost my Ford Fairlane, so I took to the streets with a Volkswagen Golf convertible. Of course, you can carjack anyone, and since it's police business, I don't have to feel bad about it. But I still wanted to wait before I engage with anything outside the story, so you will have to as well. I've tracked down the next Triad member and failed my very first tailing mission, which thankfully didn't lead to a mission failure, but a full-blown car chase instead.
Jeez! Next time, might as well get right to the chase.
That's what I said! Drive-by shooting is absolutely a thing, and it's something that deserves to be mentioned as it is more flexible than the drive-by shooting mechanics of GTA games of this era, where you could only shoot either to the left or the right with no lock-on and only with submachine guns for some reason. Well, I actually still failed here, as I wasn't supposed to destroy the limo, just chase it. So I tailed it properly on the next try to Fairfax Boulevard, where our triad friend happily carried 2 briefcases into a place called Cypress Holdings. Rosie informed me that the holdings company belongs to the Russian mob, so now we also have them involved in the triad's extortion operation. The best move from here was to go to the Russian mob spa on Beverly Boulevard and find out if they are the ones pulling the strings. The spa is where true crime turns up the difficulty on the sneaking, and god, I'm sorry, I wanted to karate kick that champagne out of her hand so bad! During the sneaking sections there is actually lethal takedowns and even a dart gun with limited shots, which I literally found out about only after beating the game. So enjoy me karate kicking my way through this entire journey, I guess.
Hello? Who's there?
Here you also have to move between sleeping people, and aside from broken glass, True Crime introduces plenty of physics objects that will alert nearby enemies if you bump into them.
I was just looking to get a shiatsu, but on second thought, I think I'll pass.
Too late for that, comrade.
Well, just hold on to your towels, okay?
I'm gonna make you scream like a cat in heat.
Huh?
While fighting the hairy Russian triplets, I not only destroyed every single toilet stall except for this one in the corner, which might be an actual fallout shelter considering how many kicks it survived, I also pulled off my first accidental special moves, still having very little clue how exactly I did that. Oh, so it was a plot toilet. I hate to admit this, but Russian Speedo Angel was the first opponent who kicked my ass twice. But being stuck with him actually worked in my favor, as I went from button mashing to slightly more intentional button mashing. I finally made it to the leader of the Russian mob at just the right time, as he was having business talks with my lead from the Triad. Turns out that it is really the Russians pushing the Triads to extort more money, as they seem to be in quite a bit of a hurry to launder as much as they can.
That's 1.5 million for the week. Yeah, it's too slow. We'll never launder all of it in time. I can't push these shops any harder. We do the laundering and that's it. And I'm telling you, the cops are all over us.
You've got that right. Hands up, nice and easy.
That's that. Kill him.
I really enjoyed this final arena-like gunfight at the end of the spa mission. Enemies finally drop some shotguns and you can absolutely deal continuous damage with an AK in one hand while taking slower but more damaging shots with a Spes 12 in the other. It's also a good time to mention that your bullets are actual projectiles and you have to take their travel path and travel time into consideration, which adds another layer to gunfights that many games didn't have in this era. Hit-scan weapons were still widely used in the 2000s and even later. It was the style at the time. I'm not quite sure where the Russian mob leader guy went, considering he jumped into the very pool we were fighting around this whole time, but at the end of the gunfight you at least still have to defeat the Triad guy with the Joker outfit, wearing the ranks of the Triad very thin at this point. Now, before I proceed, it's time to talk about True Crime story progression, and trust me, it's a lot simpler to understand if we take a minute here. Before we proceed to Mission 4, I need to mention that depending on certain factors, it's after Mission 3 the story can take an alternative turn, resulting in a storyline entirely different from the proper good outcome, resulting the story also just concluding in 5 missions. So let me take you to how things could have played out on Mission 4 as I did the alternative storyline before progressing to the other endings. The story breaks in two after we figure out that the Triad is just small fish in the operation we are trying to uncover, and it was the Russian mob pulling the strings the whole time. At this point, the FBI also gets involved in the case, as apparently we blew their surveillance operation they were already conducting on the Russians before we blew their place to pieces and destroyed all their bedroom stalls. Now, we already established that Cypress Holdings is just a front for the Russian mob. This storyline reveals there is yet another party we haven't uncovered, who is also trying really hard to take all the money for themselves, doing robberies aimed specifically at Cypress Holdings deposit boxes around town. So on this mission, instead of further investigating the Russians, we are tasked with tracking down the robbers trying to damage the Russians to get a fuller picture. And the first robber gets traced down to, well, a strip club on Hollywood Boulevard.
What's your name?
They call me Gypsy.
I can see why. You've got a quick hand for cash.
No, wallets are nothing, silly. I prefer...
A bank job?
Huh?
I used to say the magic word.
Slithering. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out! Here's the cover!
After taking down Gypsy, who, let's face it, had it coming, you have to fight the rest of the strip club. And there is not a single bouncer involved in this fight. I mean, you have to beat up the strippers. And I hate to say this, but these women were not hard to fight at all. And they had some of the most painful cries when you slammed them on the ground. Just like the previous fight at the spa, going onward, the structure of these swarm fights is gonna be the same, with you having to fight a bunch of weaker enemies before taking on a mini-boss one-on-one, who is not only stronger than the rest, but also benefits from your health already being drained by his minions. In this case, it was what I assume is the manager or the bouncer finally deciding to show up, but we are still at the easy part of the journey, so I took him down on the first try. After Gypsy admits to being only a driver for a failed TV star Lola, who is actually responsible for robbing the Russians, we simply go undercover and head out to introduce ourselves as the new getaway driver.
Gypsy threw her back out last night, so I'm filling in.
Beat it. I don't know you.
But I know you. Actually, I'm a big fan. I was real pissed when your show got canceled. It was way better than VIP.
Now, in order to prove our worthiness as a getaway driver, we are given a time driving challenge in the van the girls use for their robberies. This was one of the first times I got to drive around Los Angeles at night. And before I was about to complain about how dark and lifeless the city is at night, I did look up other people's playthroughs to see that while the environment is indeed as dark as the devil's butthole after sunset, the windows of houses not being lit and buildings generally being consumed by darkness might be an issue with the compatibility of the PC version. But we'll have plenty of time to talk about that later when I explore Los Angeles. Now, what I managed to find out is that the girls were working for someone called the General. And Nick was stupid enough to actually call Rosie and tell her all that right next to the freaking van.
Wait a minute! Who are you?
Fast works. Now who's this general?
In your dreams.
Oh, not again.
Lola was the first boss to properly kick my ass, and it's probably related to the fact that she's also the first to have her own special move. This Charlie's Angels kind of cartwheel bullcrap is really hard to block, and she will spam the hell out of this attack. From this point on, boss fights also required several tries before I could beat them, so at each one I will place a convenient defeat counter instead of having you watch me get my ass kicked on repeat. Before I could take Lola in for questioning about this general, another sniper ex machina showed up, and this one actually successfully silenced my suspect. So with very little to lose at this point, I at least was given a chance to practice my precision aiming, which is another way to use your infinite bullet time, with the caveat that you have to stand still and expose yourself to incoming shots. With Lola gone, I barely got any closer to exposing this third party. As a quick reminder that we are in an alternate timeline here, I also found it surprising that not only can we go this route, but every single mission has alternate ways to complete them. When you get your ass kicked, the game offers you the choice to replay from the last checkpoint, or sometimes it is very much an option to continue the mission after failing an objective. Your failure is then taken into account in the form of a phone call and will sometimes lead to alternative objectives. For example, here on this mission, you can actually get beat up by the strippers and still continue the story. In this case, the EOD will set you up for a meeting with Lola, who will challenge you to a race instead of a time trial, with the rest of the story playing out pretty much the exact same way. With our only lead to this mysterious third party dead and nobody really bothering to search either one of the sniper's bodies for clues, we are back to tracking the Russians, who also own a hangar at Santa Monica Airport. Playing this timeline, the Russian mafia gets completely terminated.
Wow. The vodka must have run out or something.
Me? Just hanging around.
This time you can chase after the commandos who took care of the Russians, but before you get a minute to finally identify them, you are called by Rosie to an ongoing hostage situation at the First Equity Bank on Grand Street downtown. This is the same group of commandos here at this bank for a very simple reason. All the money from Cyprus Holdings that the Russians gathered was transferred here yesterday, and they are not leaving until they get it. I actually failed to even get into the bank. With this timeline, this is gonna be the toughest battle you will experience. Police cars being the only cover ready to blow up in your face after a few shots aren't gonna be much help here. When you think you killed everyone, more commandos start pouring out of the bank. My personal advice with snipers from this point on is to actually stop using precision aiming. Just take a good aim and you can stun lock them with continuous fire. As for the rest of the commandos, good luck. I died 9 times before I got even remotely close to the bank entrance. Once you are inside, the lobby turns into an arena-style shootout, with a particularly interesting element being grenade launcher units attacking you from behind bulletproof glass, with the only way to take them out being to line up your shots and hit them through the speaker holes. Arenas will always keep you on your toes, with enemies entering from all directions. So have fun here, because this is gonna be the last time you can. Once the elevator takes you to the top floor, the real painful part begins. Fighting through offices is already not much more interesting than sewer levels in my books, so I will try to keep this part brief. But I easily spent over an hour here dying on repeat. Every other enemy here has a hostage, and initially I tried to use precision aiming as true crime intended to save as many of them as I could, before that strategy led me to die even more, and I just started blasting everyone, including the hostages, to finally get over this part. The most exciting aspect is that on this timeline, this is the final mission. So true crime starts just throwing a bunch of new weapons at you that you haven't seen yet. Uzis, MP5Ks, USP match pistols made famous by Lara Croft and Gordon Freeman, and the SIG SG551, as well as the Colt Car 15, literally being dropped by the very last enemies of the level, forcing you to drop them as soon as you pick them up. Thank you, game. Easily the most upsetting part is that only pistols can be used for precision shots. So the moment you pick up something slightly exciting, you immediately sentence all the hostages to death basically. I failed and replayed this part nearly 20 times before I completely memorized every enemy spawn point, including the ones that spawn behind you, just to beat this level before facing the final boss. We finally get to meet the general.
Han Yu Kim, North Korean Army.
Commies. It figures. Let me guess. You asked the Ruskies to launder your dirty bills, but they wiped you clean.
This money was for my country. We will starve no more.
Look at that. And I was just thinking you were some...
I want my money now!
Or what?
Or this. No!
Shit! Get up, Vic. Get up.
The final fight with General Kim on the bank's rooftop overlooking the Los Angeles skyline is as cinematic as it gets, with flashes of lightning in the background and the news chopper circling Nick and the general during the whole fight. It really made me feel like this game was meant to be a fighting game first and foremost, with all the other aspects just interactively connecting these scenes.
Sorry, pal. You should have asked for foreign aid.
America will never make us better. Never!
Oh, shit. Kang! Where's the general? What the hell happened here?
By all means, this is a very poor ending to the story. First, because it cuts Nick's story down to just 5 missions instead of the originally intended 8. Second, because if the North Korean involvement doesn't make any sense to you, it shouldn't, as we eliminate General Kim before we get a proper explanation for why he was after money extorted by the Russian mafia. And third, because on this timeline, the Russian mafia gets completely eradicated before they have a chance to be properly involved in the story. Why is that a problem? Because true crime has an overarching plotline about Nick's father that we never get to conclude without the Russian mob.
First, his mother died. She was a dear soul. Then, his father, Henry, got fingered in a drug trafficking scandal and simply disappeared. Nick's father was the best cop this city's ever had. And a dear friend of mine to boot.
Quite uniquely, true crime doesn't require you to start the story all over from the beginning just because you went the alternative way. And we can just jump back to Mission 3 like nothing happened and continue the proper storyline. Matter of fact, while not canon, playing the alternative timelines alongside the actual story is what I consider the definitive way to complete true crime, as these still provide unique missions and characters that won't show up nowhere else in the canon story. And now we go back to Mission 3 just after we infiltrated the Russian spa and blew the FBI surveillance operation. Agent Masterson from the FBI is still very much gonna be part of the canon story from now on, acting much like everyone else in the agency and constantly questioning and criticizing Nick's unorthodox methods. Well, everyone except for the chief, who I probably like the most out of all the supporting characters, possibly because she approved Nick's methods as long as they led to results.
Whoa, pal. I'm running this up now and you don't so much as take a leak unless I say so.
Speaking of which, Masterson, your fly's open.
Oh, shit.
Masterson, we agreed to let Nick do his thing. You know he's our best bet.
Damn. Don't make me regret this, Kang.
Why does everyone keep saying that?
I started Mission 4 by heading out to Venice to an auto shop to meet a mechanic known for his ties with the Russians, hoping I could finally identify the leader of the mob. Of course, I couldn't get a straight answer before beating his entire crew up in a spectacular fashion with their own tools.
Monkey kick!
Yeah, I doubt the company health insurance is gonna cover that, bro. Another guy tried to get away in his Saints Row-esque car, but they call me the wheelman for a reason. Fuck, wrong turn.
Oh no! It's like the 3rd time this week.
I apologize, ma'am. The other 2 was probably also me, just in a different car. Now, of course, I caught up, shred his car in pieces, and took him in for distasteful automotive design. And it was enough to get a name and a location finally. Rocky, and the Russian club called the Gulag? Is the German club in this town called the Auschwitz?
Oh, Mike, don't say that. Don't you dare say that.
This will bring you to another sneaky mission. If you get caught outside the club, you will have to fight the guards before meeting the boss. If you manage to successfully sneak inside, you will still end up getting caught, but we'll have to shoot the entire place up instead. This is easily the smallest arena fight in the game. It's also one of the more annoying ones as well. But finally we get a face-to-face with Rocky, the leader of the Russian mob, who is gonna be the main antagonist for the rest of the main storyline.
Hey, what do you got there, Rock? 20 bucks? Must be a slow night. So, you've got the triad laundering counterfeit for you. Teamwork, how nice.
Problem is, you keep turning up like a bad $2 bill, Detective King.
Hey, I hope I'd be worth more than that.
Question is, what's your brother worth? You want your brother to stay alive, Detective? Go back into retirement.
Leave my brother out of this. Carrie, I'm coming. I feel the need for speed.
My guy, they just kidnapped your brother. And while I drive to the next location, it's a good time to mention that Nick indeed has a brother who was introduced in Mission 2 as a successful martial arts trainer. You can fight him once for funsies, I guess, and then he goes completely unmentioned up until the point where he is kidnapped by the Russians in Mission 4. By the time I have arrived at his dojo, it was completely overrun by street thugs looting the place. This fight, story-wise, is definitely a filler, but this is where I can confidently say I understood exactly how the combos work, so it wasn't a waste at all. While we couldn't get to the dojo on time, and I doubt the Russians were gonna just tell me where they took Nick's brother, I had one more lead. An old cop from the Hollywood PD who I saw earlier at the Gulag. So I ended up tracking him for my next clue, and he managed to mislead me into a crack den on Holt Avenue. My apologies to anyone who actually lives on the corner of Holt Avenue and Whitford Drive. It's actually a pretty decent place in real life. Anyways, this was not only another filler fight, but the crazy crackhead boss fight was one of the tougher ones up until this point.
The blood of my ancestors is strong!
Mind you, this is still all happening while God knows what the Russians are doing to Nick's brother. The cop guy must have noticed I followed him, cause he left a note on my windshield asking for a meetup at a small diner across town.
This better be good. The name is Don Rafferty. You may not remember me, but I worked undercover jobs with your dad when he got into trouble with internal affairs. I promised him I'd watch out for his boys. Nick, I know about this case. It's way over your head.
Oh, I just spent 2 days in an alternative universe fighting strippers and North Koreans, so don't think anything can surprise me at this point. Rafferty's involvement with the Russians remained unclear for now, but the point is he gave us a location finally. A butcher shop on Olympic Boulevard.
Deal him! If Carrie's hurt, I'll fillet you bastards one by one.
Not having the option to beat these guys up with a stick of salami was the biggest missed opportunity in this game. In traditional true crime style, I was swarmed by a bunch of minions before facing the boss.
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
Immediately followed by a gunfight with enemies coming into the level, hanging from slabs of meat on a conveyor belt. Real fun stuff. This mission also introduced a few weapons I absolutely didn't expect, like the Ruger Mini and the Benelli M4, which was still very much famous in 2003 because of Counter-Strike.
Street knowledge.
Once I got Nick's brother, who I guess just lives in his karate outfit, we were chased by the remaining goons. Whether they were after us or all the tuna we stole with the truck, that wasn't clear. Just remember not to stop and try fighting, cause the enemy units will absolutely obliterate your car, and it's pretty much true for all car chase sequences. Pursuers are always faster than you, but they can't handle corners the same you do. So I avoided long straights as much as possible and cut corners very close to walls to gain an edge. This is the only working strategy. But the high-risk, high-reward nature of cornering actually makes these sequences the most fun you will have driving in this game. Finally, I managed to lose them and the mission was complete. By the way, having to save your kidnapped loved one from the Triad by shooting up a Los Angeles butcher shop and ending it in a car chase is a pretty memorable sequence. It would be a shame if someone stole this exact idea 10 years later. Now that we finally established Rocky as the main antagonist and we are finally on the proper timeline, I'm gonna take a few minutes here to talk about the side content, as not only I'm about to explore another alternative timeline, but also there is some cuckoo crazy shit coming up in the canon timeline, which will likely gonna require all your attention. So before we get there, let's talk about exactly what is there to do in 2003's LA, other than following Nick's story. The most important and honestly the only thing to do when free roaming the city is solving street crimes. As boring as that might sound, there's a huge variation of events I encountered in the first half of our story already. It's really the way how these events play out and conclude when variety leaves the room. Between mission objectives, you get calls from dispatch about ongoing crimes every 2 minutes or so.
Attention all units. A high-speed pursuit assistant requested. The suspect is a high-profile speeding offender.
What you're mostly gonna be doing is responding to relatively simple, low-risk situations. Which is fair enough, I guess that's what cops do most of their life. Very often, if you drive your own vehicles, you can just turn the siren on, which will help you with both traffic and criminals. Surprisingly often, suspects will surrender if you arrive with the sirens on. Even if they are armed, there is a chance they will drop their guns without much hassle, and you can just go ahead and arrest them. If you are on foot, you can flash your badge, which haven't impressed a single criminal throughout my story. None. Resolving situations peacefully will increase your karma, one level for each suspect. You can also pat down random bystanders without a crime being reported. Finding drugs or illegal firearms also earns you good karma. But it's really actually easy to be a good cop, and I never once had my karma drop into negative. Karma is directly tied into story progression, and you only get the improper endings without wrapping up the entire case if you are a bad cop. If you are a good cop, like yours truly, you still get access to alternate timelines, but you are not locked out of the canon timeline. So solving street crimes is actually a way to karma farm if you somehow still manage to become a bad cop. In that case, you still have to watch out during patrol not to sink any lower. As long as they open fire first, you can go for the kill. It won't affect your karma at all. You still get shields in this case, which is sort of a currency / point system. The shields you collect for any successful operation can be spent on training, and this is also the only currency true crime can use to penalize you if you end up dying. The three main things true crime set out to do was driving, shooting, and fighting. Therefore, these three mechanics is what you're gonna be spending 99% of your time with. So in order to keep them interesting, you are of course given the opportunity to improve and expand your skills related to these. Between mission objectives, you can drive to several LAPD driving courses, the least useful out of all the trainings. These teach you how to do stuff as simple as burnouts or stopping your car sideways to block roads, as well as how to perform a pit maneuver, which just absolutely wasn't working for me. And honestly, driving overall is the weakest of true crime's holy trinity. It does come as a surprise to many when considering that Loxaflux was the developers of the legendary Vigilante 8 series. But Vigilante 8 was not a driving game, so I kinda never understood that comparison. You can also visit LAPD shooting ranges. Now, as bare bones as the shooting range looks, I actually had fun with these, mainly because the challenges here are interesting in a way that they focus on neutralizing targets instead of killing them, making this possibly the first gun range in gaming that will penalize you for headshots. Shooting training also unlocks actually useful features like your crosshair turning red when aiming at heads and turning green for neutralizing shots. Finally, you can also visit dojos to learn minor new moves like sliding into enemies, kicking backwards, or actually, finally by the endgame, stomping on enemies while they are on the ground, because no, you normally can't attack them while they are down, so this is a must-have lesson. Separate from open world activities, there is equipment upgrades in the form of new guns, cars, and complete movesets, but let me get back to the story before we talk about those. Where were we in the story? Oh yes, the canon timeline, where Nick saves his brother and they escape. Except, if you fail to do all that, that opens up a whole new alternative path we're gonna go down on. So if you fail to save Nick's brother, he actually gets killed, and from this moment the rest of the story becomes a revenge plotline against Rocky and the Russian mob. Here you have to immediately return to the Gulag Club and chase after a fleeing Rocky. To my surprise, I thought this was gonna be it, but obviously at this point there is only one thing you can say to Nick that will still distract him, and reasonably so.
Die then, you coward! Just like your old man.
What? How did you...
You want Rocky? You go through me.
It was pretty easy to take care of Rocky's bodyguard, and he deserved it. What kind of Russian wears a Puma tracksuit when the Adidas stripes were already invented in 2003? The bodyguard in the end misinforms us about Rocky escaping to Ancient Wu's Chinese restaurant on the corner of Broadway and Bernard Street. I told you you would hear about Ancient Wu again.
Hello, how can I help you?
Table for two. Wu and I have business to discuss.
Sorry, sir. This restaurant is reservations only.
You can tell true crime is panicking about you finishing the story without trying every cool gun again, cause both this and the previous alternative timeline were the only times you could pick up the street sweeper shotguns. And oh boy, 2 of them at the same time, you can just melt people with these. And we finally get to meet Ancient Wu, the leader of the Triad.
Pathetic. Give up Rocky now.
You will find what you are looking for where the steel birds nest at the west end of the city.
We'll see. But first, you pay for Carrie. What the hell?
I told you we were gonna go cuckoo crazy in a bit, but just wait for the main timeline. Ancient Wu points us to Rocky's hangar on Venice, but instead of finding Rocky hanging from the ceiling and the Russian mob eradicated, in this universe we find a Hollywood cop Rafferty working with them, loading crates of counterfeit cash into an armored truck.
Смотри, the cop taking the door! Stop him!
This is the easiest chase in the entire story, as you can just sit back and shoot the Russians from the armored truck without their guns doing anything to you. After taking the truckload of money and the obviously dirty cop Rafferty with it, we got an offer from Rocky to give us all the information Nick ever wanted to know about his father's disappearance. So I headed out to yet another one of his clubs. A club with a rather interesting theme and with a quite peculiar lineup of clientele attending it.
That wasabi nearly blew my head off.
How about I finish the job?
Ah, detective.
Instead of getting what I came for, Rocky presented me with a kidnapped Rosie who he would only release if we brought him his truck back. Of course, I headed out to retrieve the truck, but to further complicate things, Agent Masterson from the FBI couldn't just let an officer deliver fake bills to a criminal kingpin. So Nick finally goes completely rogue, but in this ending, the car chases lose all their challenge because once again, you are behind the wheel of an armored truck. I'm trying to remind myself how many times I actually had to retry previous chases before, so I will not complain about this here. After delivering the money to Rocky and getting Rosie back, the commandos turn up once more to get rid of both Nick and the Russians.
Who's that? SWAT?
Afraid not. Go, Rosie, run!
What?
With the armored truck getting switched into gear and going around in circles, providing a moving cover, this actually turned out to be a fairly enjoyable and unique shootout. The biggest issue here really is that the commandos are quite a good distance from you, meaning that you will eventually realize that running and gunning won't result in very accurate shots. But precision aiming will require you to stand still, completely defeating the purpose of a moving cover and leaving you out in the open. I kept dying here over and over and over again. Don't get me wrong, enemies only show up from one direction at a time, so it's not like I was under crossfire. The square is just so huge, I didn't have enough time to look where the next one's gonna pop up, so each time they had a free shot on me, and that's how I had to figure out where they were shooting from. It forced me to figure out a trick I would exploit for the rest of the story actually. During precision aiming, Nick only uses his left hand, so I scooted up all the way to the edge of the statue in the center of the square and would precision aim from there, meaning only my left arm was hanging out from behind cover. And I pretty much killed everyone first try! The general still showed up in this ending, meaning North Korea is tied to the plot no matter how you finish it. But the final boss in this ending is gonna be Rocky. And this is not an easy fight, especially since you cannot interrupt his unique special move of throwing pocket dust in your face and stunning you with it.
Looks like you win, detective.
I'm used to it. Now, what about my father?
Time to join your father, detective.
Again, unfortunately, this ending will not provide any context whatsoever about how North Korea is involved. And as for Nick's father, the only thing we find out is that he died. True Crime considers this the average ending, which it is not. It didn't wrap up any storylines, it didn't solve the case, and this is the only ending where Nick's brother dies. The only thing you achieve here is that you get to kill that slimy coward, Rocky, yourself. That's it. So before I return to the actual final good storyline, we will take another short break to talk about the upgrades, because if you didn't notice, I upgraded from revolvers to some real Agent 47S dual 1911s by now, and I'm driving a freaking Ferrari. I already laid out pretty clearly, I think, what I just call the holy trinity of True Crime's mechanics. The training opportunities we already discussed are there, so you can get better at each of these. But how do you actually upgrade your guns, fighting moves, and cars? Most missions, when completed, grant one upgrade of your choosing. Like training, these are not just in a shop or a skill tree, but rather something implemented into the open world. So if you want to get a new car, you can use your one upgrade to go to a street race and you have to win the car for yourself. If you want a new gun, you have to drive to a shooting range, beat a challenge and earn the next pistol. And if you want to learn a new move, you have to beat a professional fighter to earn his move. The least interesting one is the street races. It really pains me to say this, but these are just the lowest quality content True Crime can offer. The races don't have courses or checkpoints, rather ask you to make it to the destination faster than the other racers. You can just drive in the direction of the finish line like the crow flies, and unless you decide to race with a standard NPC car you just hijacked, your own cars will always be faster than the rest of the pack. On top of that, your opponents seem to always pick a longer route. During races, the traffic is also turned off, and what you're looking at for these races is you driving all by yourself in a vast, empty Los Angeles. If you have the music turned off, this is just a really sad and liminal experience. At least the cars are good. You upgrade from Nick's Ford Fairlane to a classic muscle car, which is a blend of a first-gen Camaro with the back strongly resembling the Chevy SSR, which eventually didn't have a chrome bar running across the back, but the concept did. Your third car is a mostly accurate Dodge Viper with the front of an, I don't know, an Opel Calibra, and the final one a mostly accurate copy of a Ferrari 360 Spider. You are free to swap these out anytime you'd like to by visiting one of the many garages scattered across the map. Other than all four of these being obviously pretty fast, unique, and all of them being equipped with a siren and your custom license plate, they don't have much else going on. You cannot even customize the colors, even though the Fairlane does appear several times throughout the story with not only custom colors but custom wheels as well. The second and somewhat more interesting upgrade you can pick is fighting these professional martial artists. But hold on before you congratulate True Crime yet, because once you beat these characters, they don't even bother to actually teach you the move, and you don't get any options to practice them either. And so I ended up not using any of these simply because, unlike training that teaches you moves, there is no teaching here. I didn't learn anything other than Puma probably paid a lot of money to True Crime. The gun upgrades is where I actually had fun. These take place in a completely different setting than gun training. You actually have to move and react to dummies that shoot tennis balls at you. Kinda neat if you ask me. In a game, you can already shoot hundreds if not thousands of people without any consequences. So if someone can design a gun range, essentially a simulation inside a simulation, and still make it fun, that's something I respect.
Who the hell do you think you're shooting at?
I am telling you right now, that motherfucker back there is not real.
Eventually, I did figure out that the range of the tennis balls are very limited, so make some distance between you and the dummies, they can never really hit you. Something you might want to exploit if you are tired of retrying, as failing these upgrade challenges will kick you back into the menu where you have to start the thing all over again, including having to drive to the location. But the guns are worth it. Nick's starting 38s get upgraded to Taurus Raging Bulls, later to 45 caliber Kimbers, the same gun from the cover that ended up having a more successful career than True Crime itself, as its artwork on the internet became the standard hands-holding pistol PNG for years and years to come. And finally, Desert Eagles.
Right, yeah, of course.
Another reason you want to play the alternate timelines is because you can very much earn those upgrades completing the alternate timeline missions and still carry over the upgrades to the canon timeline, where we're gonna go back and wrap up this case properly now before we head back to the streets of LA and talk about the open world at the end. So, we go back to the point where Nick actually saves his brother. At this point, of course, Rocky is still alive, and it is very obvious the Russians are running a counterfeiting operation. With most of our leads still dead, even in the canon timeline at this point, we have the final idea to seek out Ancient Wu.
Are you an idiot?
What was urban myth? Fortune cookie stuff.
Yeah, pal. So was Social Security.
Going to Ancient Wu's restaurant in the canon timeline, we are on a mission to find the man and not to get revenge. And so, instead of shooting the place up, we have to sneak in instead. But learning the layout of the place actually beforehand helped a great deal here. Yeah, so this fight here is when things get quite weird for a game literally called True Crime. After dealing with 2 waves of cooks, who will of course drain your hell dry with their katanas and kitchen knives, the boss fight arrives. Yes, a zombie. I thought I was mistaken first, but no. First, the boss's appearance completely caught me off guard. I only have noticed in the middle of the fight that not a single one of my punches or combos were actually dealing any damage. The only way to kill him is to destroy the stoves and lure or kick him into the fire. Of course, this will risk you catching fire as well, but let me tell you, this fight has nothing on the stuff we are about to go through next. Once you make it into the caves under the restaurant, you will be fighting zombies with guns. Also, not just any weapons, the zombies are gonna be the first to drop 44 auto mags. While this section itself is not hard, zombies hiding around corners and like 7 of them just coming out of the exit door in true crime fashion can catch you off guard very easily. May I remind you that we are on the canon timeline? We finally make it to Ancient Wu, the apparently 342-year-old leader of the Triad. Now, he's gonna put you through a crapload of trials before he will tell you anything. And oh man, this is a painfully slow section. First, you will have to fight these goofy looking one-eyed lost soul ripoffs from Doom. They just gonna fly around and every now and then charge at you, which is super easy to avoid. So if these things went down after a couple of shots, it could be still entertaining. But no, they are absolute bullet sponges. It took me a nauseating 7 minutes. 7 to kill them. And guess what? There is multiple waves with a boss in the end that acts the exact same as the one-eyed counterparts. This whole fight took me over 10 minutes. The next stage is fighting Ancient Wu's bodyguard ghost wives or whatever they are. They can teleport, but this is still the easiest part of this mission. They really gain no tactical advantage over you by disappearing, other than further stretching out this already lengthy section. Between these, you get some background information as a reward from Ancient Wu. Other than genuinely seeming to regret working with the Russians, he was the first to give me some background on Rocky. Turns out, Rocky came to LA as a KGB agent back in the day, but he became involved with Los Angeles' criminal underworld. That's when he became involved with Rafferty and ultimately Nick's father. But before we get anything more out of him...
Testing? Yes, I've saved the best test for last.
Okay, we are cooked. Yep, we are absolutely cooked, chat.
What didn't make sense is having to suffer through this with nothing but my pistols. Like, god damn it, I'm just a detective. Can someone drop me like an M60 every time I hit a weak point or something? Hello? Did I remind you this is the canon timeline? It might surprise you, but other than being tedious and long, it's quite a serviceable boss fight, all things considered. Overall, it's again just a nauseating spinning pattern, and having only your pistols for this entire fight is what's holding back this from being okay. But because of those, everything I've done on this platform for the last hour is gonna stick with me as PTSD for the rest of time.
Oh man, this mess is gonna take one shitload of paperwork.
Yeah, Nick, unless those demons had a green card and a social security number, I think we'll be okay sweeping this under the rug. I was ready to go after Dirty Cop Rafferty and find out finally exactly what's going on with him and Rocky. Surprisingly, the same lady shows up from the very first intro, making you think it's gonna be a character with an overarching involvement in the story, but she is just Rocky's girlfriend. She don't have much more narrative importance than that. The only real complication is that now the cops are also after Nick, and we're gonna spend the rest of the story without the help of the agency.
Hello, Kang. You better tell me how you got Rocky figured out right now. And don't feed me any ancient Wu stories, got it?
I ain't some rookie field agent, pal. Bust me if you're gonna, otherwise, I'm gonna solve this case. My way.
What? That's it. Consider yourself fired, Kang.
Later, man. I got work to do.
I managed to follow Rafferty to a warehouse where he was gonna meet Rocky, where for the first time it seemed like Rafferty might not be as crooked as I thought first, even though he is definitely involved with the Russians.
Listen to him, Rocky. Please.
Shut up, you whore. I'll deal with Kane just like I dealt with his father. Right, Raph?
You know I never wanted Henry killed. Not his son. Please.
Son of a bitch! Rocky, you bastard! I'll bring you down!
That was rather anticlimactic. After what seemed like the easiest gunfight in the entire story so far, it's time to move on to the final mission. Once again, we are after Rocky, but the only location Nick manages to squeeze out of his henchman is Rocky's girlfriend's location. Once I met her, to my surprise, she was more than happy to cooperate.
What can I...
See my face? Rocky will not lay his hand on me again, ever. Rocky was gonna go back to the gulag tonight to collect some valuables.
Consider your troubles over. Rocky's finished.
Oh no. Oh no, why would you make that face, you bitch? So it was back to the gulag once more, and don't forget, on the canon timeline we still didn't beat up Rocky's ugly-ass bodyguard. So once we corrected that problem, another henchman finally gave up Rocky, who was supposedly at his hangar in the Santa Monica airport. The writers must have been really proud of that hangar, cause you will end up going to that place in every outcome of the story.
See anything interesting, Nikki?
Yes, the exact dart gun I forgot to use throughout the whole story. Gotta say, after killing a dragon with a pistol, this was pretty embarrassing from a narrative perspective. But at least Nick finally gets the closure he deserves.
How about I finally solved the family mystery for you, huh? Back in the 70s, Raph and I moved enough coke to fill the San Fernando Valley. Sadly, your goody two-shoes daddy got in the way. And we tried to turn him, but he wouldn't budge, so bang bang, off he went to the bottom of the ocean. Raph even planted his statue too, so internal affairs figured your pub was dirty.
Rock, please. He doesn't need to know all this.
Now, before Nick's story ends like this, an unexpected ally comes to the rescue.
Nicholas, I implore you to take revenge on those who truly deserve it.
Ancient Wu?
Ancient Wu wasn't a hallucination after all, and before Rocky could shoot Nick, Rafferty also earns his final redemption. The North Korean commandos finally show up in the last stretch of the canon timeline, although not exclusive to this mission, but they're gonna be dropping SG-552s and G-36s, making this last firefight a walk in the park. Once you shoot your way out of the hangar, you have to go after Rocky, getting away in his private jet, and you have to just shoot it into pieces before he's got a chance to take off. Sure, I mean, it's an exciting way to kill him, but it feels a lot less personal than him dying in your hands in the revenge plotline. And to wrap up the final storyline, the North Korean general shows up to finally explain that North Korea was not only involved in the counterfeiting operation, but they were the ones printing the money. Rocky was meant to launder the fake bills and send the real money back to North Korea. That's why he was pushing the triad to extort more and more money from local businesses. Problem was, Rocky became greedy and abandoned his old Soviet North Korean loyalty. difficulty. Of course, since the money was not flowing back and strengthening North Korea's economy, but instead was fulfilling Rocky's wildest, weirdest fantasies, from limousines to spas, clubs, bodyguards, BDSM sex dungeons, that's why the general was after him the whole time. That's why in his desperation he hired local guns to retrieve Rocky's bank deposit boxes. That's why while Nick was only after the Triad extorting money from local businesses, he at the same time dismantled the entire operation. And most importantly, that's why with Rocky gone, he became the last target of the North Koreans. Now, this final boss fight here with the general is easily some of the worst I had to endure in my gaming career. The general blocks every single attack and has never-ending health. The burning wreckage of Rocky's plane will set Nick on fire like super easily, while this motherfucker literally can just stand around in the flames. And so I just realized giving up is always an option in this game.
Damn. I almost had it.
Well, as I said before, I haven't seen too many happy endings in this town. In the end, I can only hope that eventually this story will be rewritten by the deeds of a more capable cop.
A more capable cop? You mother...
Guns for two. No guns. You're a waste of bullets. Monkey paw. Kung Pao.
Hope I made you proud, Dad.
Are you okay, Nick?
Yeah, doing good. Real good.
Kang! You got some serious moves!
Nice work, Nick.
Thanks, Chief. Hey, how about I buy you two dinner? I know this great China bistro. No? Come on, what do you say?
And that's where our story ends. What you got to say about that, Christopher Walken?
Good going, Nick. You really need a theme song. I got one. Who is the man who's half Chinese and half white man? Kang.
Oh, I should have just quit when I did. While the story of Nick came to an end, ours is far from over. Cause how could we be done without talking about the most important character of every open world game? The open world itself. If you heard anything about the gaming landscape of the early 2000s, you probably already know it was one of the hero eras of the Grand Theft Auto franchise. The more I was thinking about True Crime's Los Angeles, the more obvious it started to become that while it might look like Luxaflux created this rendition of the city with realism in mind, what I think the main driving force was behind this project was to one-up Rockstar games and their limited open worlds. The designers basically cut a slice out of actual LA and set out to recreate every individual street. I mean all of them. This aforementioned slice stretches from Santa Monica and Venice Beach on the west coast all the way into the heart of downtown LA. Locations I'm sure you are quite familiar with if you played, well, any of these superior renditions of Los Angeles by Rockstar games. You surely noticed me throughout our journey giving you exact street names on several occasions. I've done that to further emphasize that all of the locations in Nick's story were, of course, implemented as if they were on the actual streets of LA. While the road layout is pretty spot on, all the buildings in this game are copy-pasted pre-made structures that the devs kept using on repeat without any regard to where buildings are in real life. size is not that impressive by itself if this is the method you gotta use to achieve it. This is actually one of the biggest open worlds in gaming. This city is 240 square miles. To put that in perspective, that's 5 GTA 5 maps combined, and the GTA games we got around this time were between 3 to 5 square miles. Now, while these figures all sound very impressive on paper, there is a reason this game is called True Crime Streets of LA and not True Crime LA, as this game succeeds at recreating the size and street layout of LA rather than the feel of the actual city. The detail here is not even half of what we got in GTA 3 2 years before this title, making that roughly 2 to 3 square mile city superior in every conceivable way other than size. The vibes this city gave me is surprisingly not of an open world crime game, but rather American truck simulators we got in the early 2000s, where roads were built wide to fit traffic and for the simple purpose of giving the player long distances to cover. And to my absolute surprise, the 2004 truck simulator, 18 Wheels of Steel Pedal to the Metal, done a similar, if not better job at recreating a believable United States more than True Crime managed to recreate a believable Los Angeles. So it seemed natural to go on a road trip from downtown to the coast. This, according to Google Maps, is a 26-minute drive in real life. Of course, Google Maps takes traffic into consideration. So I will just assume that if you don't have to obey traffic laws and you got a relatively open road, this would take about half that time. And I was close enough, as it took me 10 minutes to reach Venice Beach. Just the sheer distance I could cover was extremely impressive. This was 10 minutes non-stop high-speed driving. Reaching the coast is where my illusion started falling apart. So while I was here, of course I had to drive up north and check out the Santa Monica Pier, wondering why no missions brought me to this otherwise iconic LA landmark. Seeing the entire pier being blocked off from the public made me sad in ways I can't put into words. I drove even norther on the Pacific Coast Highway, yet another location most of you who play GTA games should be familiar with, and I was extremely unimpressed all the way until I hit the word barrier. I said, fine, let's head into the hills and check out the Griffith Observatory. Nope, that was out of bounds. Okay, then head south to check out LAX. Nope, too south, out of bounds. This is where you realize they cut this slice out of LA in a way so they didn't have to recreate some of the best landmarks in the north, and they would make a cut in the south so none of LAX would have to be represented either. You will just have to do with the Santa Monica airport where the story ends, and don't get me wrong, it's a historically important place as it's one of the oldest airports in America, but it's a very sad excuse for an open world Los Angeles to not include LAX. I had just one more thing to test before I was gonna leave town for good, and that was trying to navigate the city using a real GPS. And truthfully, this is where this game redeemed itself a little bit, as I was genuinely excited to be driving along a real GPS route, navigating the city with the street signs that appear overhead on the HUD, and I have actually found the Capitol Records building, the Chinese Theater, Rodeo Drive, and several iconic places without ever looking on the game map and only looking at a real one. So, what do I think of True Crime Streets of LA after playing it for the first time? I like the story. I will get that out of the way as soon as I start this segment. I love crime drama, so I'm biased here. But for me, True Crime delivered enough to tickle the right neurons in my brain to where sometimes it was just the story that motivated me to get through the, let's just say, more dreadful parts. Lux of Lux, of course, took some creative liberties.
Oh no, it's a McChicken nugget in Chick-fil-A sauce. Somebody stop me.
But once it's all over, that's a part you will look back on fondly, remembering it being one of the few things that separates true crime from other crime dramas. First, I found it a bit jarring how typical crime drama themes like extortion and money laundering shifted so quick into espionage. We were talking about the Triad and the Russian Mafia just 2 minutes ago, and now the North Korean government is involved? This all made a lot more sense after doing a bit of research, as I found out North Korea was actually accused of counterfeiting American money and distributing it through criminal organizations. These accusations were made about 3 years before True Crime's release, and a whole lot of the case was classified. But the writers of the game just grabbed the whole premise and ran with it. If you're the type to get invested in the stories of older GTA titles, you will find that Streets of LA does deliver the same quality, to be honest. My only issue was the characters. And I don't mean I didn't like the characters, I mean none of them really lived up to their full potential. A lot of that is probably due to the relative shortness of the game, but okay, examples. This Officer Johnson shows up literally in the first minute of the story, immediately giving you the impressions that he will be a secondary antagonist or a bully.
Ah, the prodigal son returns, huh? Hey, Johnson, since when does LAPD issue weapons to meter maids?
Always quick to pick a fight, eh, Kang?
Hey, Johnson, how about that time a straight bit you in the wiener, huh?
Shut your mouth, you old loser!
Up yours, pal!
But no, he disappears right after the intro and only shows up once near the end. And what does he do? He asks Nick kindly to cooperate before getting hit by him.
What the hell do you want? Sorry, man. The feds want you brought in. Come on, Kang. Just cooperate for once, will you? Sorry, but you make a lousy roadblock.
Why? I didn't hate this guy. Nick was genuinely the asshole in this situation. And don't get me started on George. He had a really good potential to be a comic relief.
Maybe think about firing one piece at a time. Saves and all. For the senoritas, you know what I mean?
But I guess Nick handled most of the comic relieving himself.
You have the right to soak in your own urine.
For better or worse. George did end up narrating the intro and all of the endings, but being voiced by the legendary Christopher Walken, you can't help but ask, Christopher, could you just ask them for a bigger role next time?
No.
Why not?
I don't want to.
But they would pay you more money.
I don't care.
But I like you in this game.
Too bad.
Other than him, we had a lot of talent behind these characters. Nick was voiced by Russell Wong, whose film and television career featured numerous police, crime, and martial arts roles. Interestingly, just 6 years before True Crime, he already played the lead role as an agent named Nick in the 1997 Hawaii Five-0 TV film that was intended as a pilot to a TV show that got cancelled. We got Gary Oldman as both Agent Masterson and Rocky, who also had a role as a Russian terrorist just 6 years before True Crime in Air Force One, likely inspiring the writers to cast him for the role.
Tell me what I want to hear, or I will execute a member of the senior staff and continue killing one hostage every minute.
Don't be stupid, Kang. You want to see her kill too?
See you soon, detective.
Gary Oldman, you are the voice in Call of Duty.
I'm General Reznov. Yeah. I'm more famous for that than anything else, I tell you.
That's a big deal.
What's Call of Duty?
We also got Michelle Rodriguez, Michael Madsen, Ron Perlman, CCH Pounder.
Want to pick up some food on the way?
You're not dragging me to that Chinese place again, are you?
Come on, I gotta think for egg rolls tonight.
Yeah, I don't think for egg rolls every night.
How about I buy you two dinner? I know this great China bistro. No?
What's her problem with Chinese food? And James Wong.
Where the metal birds flock near the ocean, you will find revenge.
What was that? Ancient Wu?
The sixth edifice at the landing place of the flying machines.
Wait, sorry, I don't quite follow.
Santa Monica Airport Hangar 6, asshole.
Whoa.
But most importantly, I guess, we got Snoop Dogg, who was a secret playable character you could only use for solving street crimes in a separate game mode.
What you got there, nigga? Move, bitch. Get out the way.
A real novelty, but a feature that is still among the first things people bring up when talking about true crime. And one that I couldn't try myself, as my game lost all of its sounds shortly after beating it, and not even reinstalling or community fixes would bring the sound back. And with that, I think we covered everything. I don't give final ratings because if I don't like a game, I don't finish it. So true crime having its own video on my channel is all the praise I can give to this game. You can still have plenty of fun with this title, as short as it might be. Eventually, in the future, I will be very much looking forward to playing the sequel and replaying the masterpiece of a spiritual successor that was Sleeping Dogs. But I do tend to have franchise burnout, so we will play something else next time. If you watched this far, I would like to thank you for your support. I mean, it really means the world to me, and it's still not too late to subscribe and drop a like. Thank you, and I hope to see you next time in the Game Lodge. Farewell.
Who is the man who's half Chinese and half white man? Can...
Christopher, are you still here?
No.
Christopher.
I said no.
Oh, man. Man, you need to go.
I don't want to.